Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Again, my name's Angie, and today I wanted to do a review of the homeschool curriculum that I have been using this past year for my kindergartner. So I guess he's been 5 for the entire time we use this. We use this from January of 2019 all the way to November of 2019. So I wanted to do a review. One, because I just really love this program and I want to get more reviews out there and more people talking about it. And the program is called Build Your Library. It is developed by the author Emily Cook. She actually has a YouTube channel and it's called homeschooling. I will link that below. She's an amazing resource. She has a style that is literature based. Charlotte Mason inspired. So she really focuses on teaching her kids through books, which was really what drew me. I have such a love for books, and then just to teach my kids through books. So today I just wanted to review our experience with the first level, or I guess it's actually called level 0. It is for kindergartens. It says for ages 4 through 6. And so my son was 5. And my daughter was 3, turned 4. So she was kind of 3 for half the year and 4 for half the year, if that makes sense. So she sat with us, but it wasn't like, I wasn't necessarily gearing it towards her as much as it was my older son who was. This is a literature-based secular homeschool program. I think I just really enjoyed the literature aspect of it, and I think she did a really good job. She picked some amazing books, and it's really thought out. And for me personally, I like to teach my kids scripture memory and Bible knowledge, all of that kind of in my own way. And so I was drawn to it because then I wouldn't have to kind of pick through the Christian aspects of the program and pick and choose what I agreed with, what my husband and I would agree with. So I landed on a secular program, but it's a really good program. So I encourage any homeschool family that is looking for a good literature-based program to consider Emily Cook's programs, Build Your Library, because she has it ranging from kindergarten to 12th grade. So to get into level 0 was, it was called Around the World, and it basically went from continent to continent. And I had actually watched a couple of reviews on YouTube that helped me when I was planning. That one woman, which I'll find it and I'll link it below, but she gave the advice that you don't have to go in order. Pick the continents you want to do and you can bounce around. And so I totally did that. We started with Antarctica because it was a shorter unit, and it was January when I started, and so it was colder out, so it felt really more appropriate to do the Antarctica. And I really wanted to start getting my kids more into chapter books, and so the first chapter book for Antarctica is Mr. Popper's Penguins, which is just it's a really cute book. It's kind of got some slapstick comedy around it. My kids really liked it. They thought it was really funny. So it was a hit, and it was a good continent to start with. So some basics on how the program is set up. It is set up where she has a book list, which is actually available online for free. So you can just kind of look up her program and get her book list, and you can see that it goes through some geography recommendations, some literature, tales, science, poetry, art, and some additional art or science books. So basically the way she has it written is that there's some spines, and spines being books such as Children Just Like Me that you use consistently throughout the program. So you talk about the different kids in the different areas of the world when you get to that continent, and you see how they live, you see what kind of houses they have, what their hobbies are. And this was one of the books my kids really liked because I think it could help them see what life was like for kids their age in just different parts of the world. What did they eat? Where did they go to school? Things like that. So that was a really enjoyable book. So that's called a spine. And so those ones are the ones she recommends buying. And so there was a number of spines. Like my kids also liked the poetry, the animal poetry book. It's really beautiful. It's National Geographic. Some of the pictures are just stunning. And so they always requested the poetry, and it's really short poems, and so they really enjoyed that. It was very age appropriate for the 4 to 6 year old season. And then there was others. There was a Atlas book, World Atlas book, as well as, I'll just hold them up. I brought them up. World Atlas book as well as the Animal Atlas book that you used as spines, and they were great. We just went through those. It was like a page spread a day. So let me explain the program, and then I'll show you kind of how I adjusted it to work with my family. Each continent had some literature associated with it, so like Mr. Popper's Penguins, Little House in the Big Woods, which is definitely a longer book for the 4 to 6 year old, and we got through it, and it wasn't like pulling teeth. It wasn't their favorite because it wasn't as action packed, but it was a good one that you could stop and talk about, like, wow, what would that feel like to live during that time when they had to grow their own food, or they had to capture their food, or they had to ride in the buggies to get places, or they never tasted candy, things like that. So it was it's a good book. And it's definitely, it could be a challenge, but there are some other options. That's the other thing is Emily Cook has lots of different options, either additional books in the actual program, or there's Facebook groups that you can ask and be like, hey, my kid is not digging this. What are some other options? And there's tons of people that'll reply back. So there is a ton of support in those groups. I want to share a couple of my kids' favorites, because there's just a lot. I mean, I brought all my stacks out, but I can't show you them all. That would be a ridiculously long video. But when we were in Europe, my kids really, sorry, it wasn't Europe, it was the United States. My kids loved How to Make an Apple Pie and See the World. It's just a really cute book. As this girl goes around the world collecting different ingredients for her apple pie. My daughter especially loved that. This one was really good from Africa, The Tree of Life. It had great pictures. It was a little bit more wordy, but again, you take it in chunks. You don't read this whole thing at one time if you don't want to. If you follow her schedule, you kind of read it a little bit at a time. I'll show you the schedule in just a second when I talk about schedules. But Drop Around the World, this was so fun. You get to follow the drop, and on each page they get to look for the drop. It's kind of hidden. They enjoyed that, so that was more interactive. But Audrey and the Outback was for Australia. There was a different book for Africa that we did get. It was like the tales, Nelson Mandela's folk tales in Africa. It was good, and we read some stories and we liked it. I got recommended this book, and it's an excellent, one of the first readers is Anna Hibiscus. It was the first one. This takes place all in Africa, where she talks about her life in Africa, and the kids really like this. So that's another good option. See, it's very loose, and if you allow yourself to pick up what works for your family, it is just a very fun program to follow. Okay, so to look a little bit at the schedule, so I just marked off week 1. So what she has for you, which is very helpful, especially if you are new to homeschooling, or if this is one of your first years, and it was very nice to have a schedule. And so what she does is she has it set up by days of the week, day 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then the different topics like geography, tales, literature, science, and then as you go, it gives different assignments. So you can see, like, for one day, first day it's just geography and science. That's all you read, and then you're done. And then you can do your little bit of math, your little bit of phonics. So it's a great intro into this world of teaching through books, and so it's fantastic. So what I found, though, with my personality is I would either get behind, or we wouldn't get to everything, or they wanted to read more in one area. Like they loved Mr. Popper's Penguins, so they kept wanting more and more chapters, but I was like, oh, but the schedule says. And when I was able to kind of release the schedule, it worked a lot better for me. What I did is I created my own document, and this is all marked up, so I apologize for that, but this is the one I made for Australia. And what I did is I just took geography and I listed out all of the different times she had geography and how she broke it up. Like Children Just Like Me, page 68 and 69 was one of the days. And I just made a huge list, and then I made check marks, and then I got to things as they came. So I was like, okay, we have enough time for geography real quick, so we'll do that. Or like, no, we can't do that, or we're gonna just read all the way through Audrey and the Outback, where my kids wanted to just read a number of chapters at once. So we just, instead of doing all the different ones for that day, we just did Audrey. We just read out of our read aloud for that day, and we caught up on the others some other day. It made it a lot more flexible for me and a lot less stress inducing. Some of the things I changed, like I changed the schedule, I changed the science projects. So with her main science was animals, animal study, and using the animal atlas, and then she had kind of an animal project where you pick one and you make lap books, and we did that. So I pulled some of my kids' lap books out, and they were really basic. Though they did enjoy making these, I didn't really enjoy doing them, so we kind of stopped. It was like my son, he made this tiger one where he had some flip outs, and we just printed a bunch of stuff online and made some little flipping. We're not the best lap bookers. I have found that I'm not the best crafty sort of mom, but they like it, so it's like there's a give and take where I do it sometimes, but I don't get myself too stressed out about it. Same with the art. I just stopped doing the art. It really wasn't for us. The crafty kind of projects that are in this book weren't for us, but I know some families who love this part, or there were some families who love the cooking. I didn't even mention that. There's actually a cooking book, but I never was able to find it used, and so we never did pick it up. And I would try and maybe look up some stuff on Pinterest, but that just, again, that didn't fit my current situation with our kids. So I mentioned I have my 4-year-old and my 6-year-old, but I also have 2-year-old twins. And while we were doing this program, they were pretty much 1 year old. So things were a bit unpredictable. And so I just had to release some of that. I had to be like, I don't like the art. We're not going to do the art. I don't like the cooking. We're not going to do the cooking. But we did sometimes go to restaurants. Like we went to a Nepalese restaurant when we finished up the Asia study. And my kids really loved that. I mean, I don't know if they really loved the food, but they really loved the experience and the exposure. And then as for buying the books, I got the spines and I got some of the others used, but mostly we did the library. I'd say half to 3/4 of the books I picked up from the library. So yes, highly recommend this program. I would encourage you to look at it if you're interested in using books to teach your kids, or a literature-based program. If you have used this program, please comment down below. Tell me what you thought of it. If you've never heard of it, please take a look at it if you're looking for homeschool curriculum. But even if you're not a homeschooling parent, this the book list is really good to just kind of look at it and see like some really good books for these 4 to 6-year-old categories of learning more things from around the world. So that's what I have for today. Thanks again. Consider subscribing and joining me on this journey of books and homeschool and all the things. So I really enjoy it, and yeah, have a wonderful day and take care.